So we've got a bit of time for questions. Very happy to take them from the audience, so start to give some thought to that, but I'll take the moderator's prerogative first. Glen, you mentioned some of the programs that the Labour government had put in place, and Greg, you kind of acknowledged that some of those were useful kind of contributors. Very gracious. I guess I'm curious, these workforce issues, they're clearly going to take much longer than a political cycle to resolve. How good are we, or how confident are you that we're actually building on the work of successive governments? I guess I saw some of the good work under the last government, and I do worry that, when the political tide changes, that a lot of that good work sort of put to the one side, and we sort of feel the need to start again. Greg, maybe if I start to you, and I think you do have to actually pop up to the mic, sorry, so that we can hear, but either or can start the discussion. But
Oh, that old one, eh? The old 3-year cycles. I'm really interested in doing some research globally. For example, Wales have the Minister for Future Generations. And it's a new initiative that's been brought in the previous parliament over there. And their sole role in cabinet is to be the Minister for Future Generations, looking at least 2 generations ahead on every piece of policy work, every piece of decision making, and what are the impacts. And I think for us here in New Zealand, like from completely purely political level, I think how do we actually embed some of those kind of things in the structure of the actual executive, for example. I mentioned just transitions, and I'd managed to get into our policy work last year that New Zealand would, if we were back in government, would have a minister for just transitions who would sit around the cabinet table, because I could see that there wasn't a minister responsible, which meant workforce development, which meant the work that was being done in Taranaki or Southland was sort of, no one actually took responsibility. So I really think bipartisanship is always a challenging word, because it's like bipartisanship as long as you do it my way. But it's around how do you actually embed, I think, some of those core structures in place, like, for example, around the cabinet table, that can mean they aren't lost at a next event. But I think the other challenge is that we as politicians need to lean across the aisle and actually, what are some of those enduring policies which aren't political. For example, we know that we have an ageing workforce. Taranaki here particularly, there's going to be more people over 65 and retired than anyone else very shortly. And I don't think that's a red or a blue issue. It's a us issue that we've got to deal with. So how do we actually, whether we're in power or in opposition, how do we reach across the aisle to actually ask those questions, be willing to concede some stuff, but then also be willing to continue the work in there. So that's a couple of thoughts.
Greg, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I'll probably just give you some stats. So there's 13,000 plumbers, grassers and drain layers that are licensed in every class, including apprentice, certified tradesman, journeyman. Out of that 13,000, we have 141 female. Now, I think that's just a total embarrassment, right? And we have the National Association for Women in Construction, and Colleen Upton runs that. She's a proud gas fitting business in Wellington. Unless we change the dial on that, our workforce crisis will only get worse, and we're going to need some subsidies or some funding to make that mechanism more attractive at the moment. We fight in the construction sector. Builders seem to be sexier with more money and can run around a building site. Gas fitting can have its own challenges, and particularly drain laying and plumbing can. But ultimately, a gas fitter will earn 30% more than a builder and a sparky, and the career position they've got in the industry is much more attractive. But we're not doing a good job in career advisement, particularly in diversity structure, attracting people to our sector. And I think the Workforce Development Council that the Labour government set up was a great platform, and now I'm nervous they're going to be this small entity with no power or money, and so that's the challenge for us to get through.
Leile, did you want to add anything on this one?
Yeah, I think it's the challenge is that as I've said a number of times, the multifaceted nature of it, right? And so to try and get all of these pieces of the puzzle aligned, we need to train the people, we need to attract the people, then we need to make the working environments right, we need to have the career pathways right, you need to make the tertiary sector attractive to the right people, and then you need to retain them and balance a bunch of generations at once in a workforce and try and meet the needs of all of these different people. So I think this will sound trite, but I think a strengths-based approach would be wise, and that if we can all align but collaborate, all work together, because what I see in the sectors is fractured. Is the competition prevents us from working together. But to meet this challenge, collaboration's our only hope. And training is a really good place to start with that, because I find that collaboration begets collaboration. When you start collaborating in one space, you get better and better at it, and there's a flywheel. So I really hope that those groups don't diminish or disappear, because I think those are the answers, working together so that we can all work on our paths and on our strengths. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Thanks for those thoughts. Ben had a question.
I chair the GasNZ Industry Workforce Development Council for Library, and I can say we've actually got the macro credentials for hydrogen, but they've come across the plumbing industry because of the split on things, and we've only got 5 apprentices in the high pressure gas sector registered. We've got 300. I can provide the TUC advice that we've just completed. That's why I had the 11 people on even others. But my challenge to you is, and hats off to Minister Sepulveda and the agreement that we came to at the time of forming the regional skills leadership teams. I was part of the West Coast and the Southern one. I was on both at the time, so I've used those base data points to create things, and I congratulate the Taranaki region on such a strong report that hasn't actually been read by the existing minister for one reason, but anyway, it's a personal thing. But, I've got 62 million sitting in the pot fenced around the Workforce Development Council for construction at the moment. Thank you to Minister Sepulveda. The national government can't touch it. But, the guys in here, you guys have got to put your hands up and say that you've got the workforce that you want to develop. Because we've got so much opportunity. We're sitting out in the high pressure stuff, and distribution, all the tightening stuff. And I acknowledge Phil and his work. He used to be my neighbour at Otuka, and bits and pieces 21 years ago, the Master Plumbers set everything together. But as it gets, we've got to start to collaborate. And that 62 million is ring fence. No government minister can touch it. That's why she's so pissed off with me. So, I put the challenge to the three of you, particularly, to be prepared to come, and take some of our TUC advice, come and participate stronger in the thing, because, my future question is, and I think I've been hammering this all the way through this collaboration, we're actually forgetting to do it, and we're forgetting to actually reach out in the networks. And I think, with Meridian, we've got the Girls and Pipers and bits and pieces, but, we go to do those sort of things. We forget to tell each other. How are the most essential part for our build up here and in the Waikato, but we forget to tell each other that we're working on the same development program. So I'm really, hats off to Minister Sepulveda. She did actually listen. I've got a minister at the moment that, because she had the most profitable polytech in New Zealand, and it's one of the only surviving ones, but she never did gas fitting. And she, so I really want to challenge you guys as speakers and presenters to actually know that the money's there in our Workforce Development Council, and I want to challenge everybody in this room. But to know that, we've got the macro credentials, we've got the ability to do it, but we're just not talking. We forget to say that you're in the low pressure. We forget to say the other side.
So is the question, if you had $62 million, what would you do with it? So Greg would build a centre of excellence, we know that. Greg.
It
Yeah.
You know, my question to you is, I've got $62 million, what are we going to do?
My question is, how do I access it?
Greg will happily take your $62 million. Don't you worry about that.
I've got it, ring fence, so what are you going to do with it? Tell me.
We're going to build a centre of excellence for gas, high, low, in every sector, and train apprentices properly so we get the outcomes that we need for the sector. Otherwise, we're in a crisis again.
Exactly, so I'm challenging you, you've said that, I'll see you afterwards.
Yeah. Actually, well, that's a great outcome from this forum, actually. If we Fantastic. All right, any other questions from the audience? Yeah, sure. Dave. Yeah, please.
I do believe that we fail in the school area, for attracting people to our industry.
Yeah.
Because like the local college where I work, probably going to have 250 students leave this year. Mm-hmm. And we have one who's doing workplace development with us. So they don't get told at school, that the construction industry is a viable place to work.
Yeah, Greg's in there.
So look, this is what really pisses me off. But I'm a bit happier because I got 62 million, right? A career advisor, I've had kids go through it. My kids went to Wellington College. And the principal there, Roger, who was there for 25 years, is a great principal. He said to me on the cricket field, because I spent way too much on the cricket field, right? He said to me, in the 70s, 20% of the Wellington College students, around 2,000, could go to university. Now, 84% go, right? And guess what a career advisor, because of your union mates, has to be? Has to be a former teacher. And guess what teachers have done? University education. So the union rules around education is a career advisor at college has to be an ex-teacher. Why? Because they haven't done construction, they haven't looked at gas fitting, plumbing, building, electrical. And so we've got career advisors, David, sitting at school who think university is the only pathway. And I'm not criticising university, both my kids have gone to university, right? But there's other pathways, and until you have career advisors that can be neutral, you're never going to have the education problem that career advisors are causing in our colleges with our young people. Sorry, little hobby host.
Oh, great response. Nothing like a bit of passion. Glen or Leile, did you have on high schoolers? How do we kind of get in there early and attract these people?
Yeah, well, again, I think from a governance perspective, it's around how do we get out of the way, but find initiatives like regional schools leadership groups or those types of things where it's okay. Getting around economic development hat on, I'm going around the country and meeting. And then the solutions are out there, but it's around how do we actually connect. I think my job and the jobs of local councils is how do we enable to connect dots and to then step aside and let you actually develop that. So I think that's a big one for us, is because so often, like you say, like the New Zealand Inc. story, like we're actually all in this together. We're kind of competing with each other, but we're actually all in this together to build a better New Zealand, an economic foundation, that type of thing. But I think as leaders, in terms of from my perspective, it is, how do we create initiatives that aren't all about us, but around you, connecting, and then building a pathway. It's kind of simple, and then finding money you can spend a ring fence. Any other goals?
Leile, did you?
I just want to add one to that. I think about those select committees that you're on, and I think it's really important to have a network within a network where you can text somebody during the submission, to make sure to do the fact check of the thing, and I really encourage you to do that at select committee level, because that's when the biggest changes and implementations can happen. So you're in a different position to me, but we'd like to hear from you.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I think it is kind of, what do you call at the circus, the ringmaster? It's almost like, terrible analogy as a politician. But it's, how do we be the ones, because when we don't know the sectors, we're the ones who actually just need to be resourcing and enabling it. So, and I think so often I look when I meet with industry or business or community, whoever, and you're so focused on what you're doing, which is right, because you've got you've got your staff, you've got your business plan, you've got your whatever it is. And it's for us, again, that lifting our gaze, how do we as community leaders actually then be like, you need to meet. Well, you just did it yourself, but actually, and I think that's the most satisfaction in this role is when you get to do that and actually connect the dots, because that's the thing. I think so often do what you do, look around, but I think for those of us in leadership, how do we actually be the dot connectors so we can actually move forward in a direction together?
Fantastic. Yeah, no, you were here, Glen, so I think you can take credit for that. Absolutely. Sorry, we had a question up here.
Yeah, I titled the comments about the teachers and the careers providers, but as leaders, and it's a question for everyone, how many of us have actually gone to a careers advisor and say, hey, can we have a chat about a career in gas environment, or can we have a chat about a career as a builder? Hands up who's actually done that.
I've been to college and spoken to them.
Can I say that? So, I'm from Wellington. I have my team to go around. We asked to go to a careers day at Wellington Girls. They said no.
Leile?
I think again that I'm going to just sound like a broken record, that the answer is collaboration. So we've heard from the ministry that they are just overwhelmed with requests for things like this, STEM in schools. So there are well over 100 different initiatives across the schools going in teaching STEM. But again, the fractured approach. None of them are aligned, none of them are a pipeline from community through school all the way to training into jobs. There's no connection and there's no collaboration within the industries. There's a few where a bunch of employers are involved, like Wonder Project, etc. But if we could join forces and have a number of targeted initiatives that were joined up, that would be so much more powerful. And I am part of some work with Global Women and Champions for Change to do this. So I'm putting a lot of resource and effort into trying to collaborate on that piece, because you're right, they say no, and it's so hard. But if we can align, it'll be so much more meaningful. Yeah.
No, thank you very much for that. Okay. He aha te mea nui o te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is the most important thing in the world? It is people, it is people, it is people. And I think we heard that from all our panellists today, and it's very much reinforced by the passion and energy that I see in this room for our workforce development. We are now going to head downstairs for the wrap-up session, but before we do, please join with me in thanking our panellists.
have reached the end of the journey, or this journey, not the journey, right? We're all on a bigger journey than that, from what I can tell. And I realise now it's me between you and lunch and departing, so I will keep this pretty brief. What I'm not going to try and do is sum up the whole conference, because I'd be here for another hour and you would have disappeared by then. But look, let me just sum up by saying the way I feel after this conference is really energised and excited about the future for this industry. And I can tell you that's way different than I felt 2 years ago at the previous conference, to be quite honest. Although I probably said I was optimistic at that time. But this time I really am. And, yeah. Because, why do I say that? Because 2 years ago, you know, the environment was completely different. We had a different political environment. We had some real uncertainty about what was going to happen to the gas industry at that time. Our renewable developments were still on the drawing board pretty much at that point. They all looked great, but they weren't physically, you know, coming to pass at that time. Now they are, and that is a massive difference, and I believe fantastic. And congratulations to the people who've been involved in those developments. But that, you know, feeds into the way why I'm so optimistic. And of course, there's a lot more to come in that field. So that's, you know, to be really looked forward to. Obviously, the government has changed, and clearly, from what we've seen from both ministers, way more supportive and way more recognition of the role that gas plays today, especially today, but also into the future. So, you know, all these things contribute to optimism, I believe. But I think it is now, as we were saying before, it's now incumbent on us as an industry, as an association, as the wider, I always say, non-traditional sectors who will feed into this in the future, to take up the reins and put forward our vision, and particularly put forward our concrete steps that we're going to take over the next few years to demonstrate to whichever government's in place that we're really serious about the future of gas and that we're prepared to back it. So, all of that said, I just want to give Minister Jones an opportunity to join the meeting. He isn't here physically, but his words are. And I will just let you read an excerpt from the speech that he made in May, which you can Google if you're on YouTube. You look up Minister Jones Unicorn, you'll probably find it on YouTube. I wish I could do the delivery the same way he does it.
I'll give it a go.
No. But look, you know, that's classic Shane Jones, right? And I really encourage you to have a look. If you haven't seen it, have a look at that speech. It's a 5-minute speech, colourful, as you can see, and it's a really, you know, quite a positive message, should we say. But look, well, I think what, you know, as part of what I was saying about us taking the lead, let's prove to him and whoever may come after him that we don't have a faint green vision, and that we don't have unicorn kisses, or that we're not emerald mannequins, whatever that might be, but we actually will deliver on this vision. So I'll leave that message up there while I just finish off. So I have, you know, as usual, plenty of thank yous for this conference and the way that it's been conducted. And I will start with Jeffrey Clark for the brilliant agenda that you put together, Jeffrey. Really, really appreciate it. I think, you know, I've had universal positive feedback from people here. It's come together incredibly well. You've corralled some fantastic speakers, and I thank all the speakers. They've done a wonderful job, and you know, these things don't happen by magic. There has to be plenty of effort that goes into putting a presentation together for a group like this. So thank you to all of you who stood up here. And then, of course, like I said, things don't happen by magic, and there is this team that you might have seen floating around somewhat unobtrusively, actually making all the logistics happen and all the food happen and all of that great stuff, the transport, all of that. And I need to thank Rowena, Lindsay, who I believe isn't here but did a lot of preparatory work, so thank you to her, Kathy, Brian and Donna, wherever you all are, but thank you very much indeed, because your background support just helps everything go so well. So really appreciate all the effort that goes into that. And then to all of you, everyone who came here, you've given up, a couple of days, maybe 2.5, including travel, to spend time here. The contributions, the questions, the discussions, either in here or around a lunch table or a dinner table, have been really, really interesting to be part of. So, thank you very much. And yes, buy those tickets for the next forum, wherever that may be, and safe journey home. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick, and thank you for those kind words. All much appreciated. Just the last couple of organisational matters. Those of you who have special dietary requirements, lunch is a platter, so there's a table that has the dietary requirements foods on it. You'll have to ask someone, because I don't know which table it is, but one of them. And don't forget to fill in the post-event survey that's going to come out next week. And the presentations are all going to be available on our website. We'll send you an email with the details. Thank you very much.